that can compare with Afghanistan, which bans women education, their freedom of speech, and what they wear, how they walk, and how they can go out of their houses. Every single rule that's coming up every single day is about women. So this is the only government on the earth that I know has the biggest problem with the woman. This event states that we have not forgotten the Afghan people, and we have not forgotten about Afghan women, but we support them. This event is to see the impact of the Taliban takeover on Afghan people's life, and especially Afghan women, who are the main victims of this war, human rights. People in the rest of the world fight for equal pay between men and women. But in Afghanistan, women are fighting for their basic human rights, education. Tonight, we are going to hear from speakers, our wonderful speakers, to share their experiences as Afghan women, as well as representative of local organizations serving the Afghan community, to hear about how they are serving this population. And please hold your questions, and there will be time at the end for Q&A. So feel free to write any question you may have in the chat so we can go along or when we start. So I am going to introduce our speakers, our wonderful speakers. Azita Ibrahimi, doctoral student and professor at the Faculty of Fine Arts, University of Herat, Afghanistan. She is currently in Germany, and she kindly agreed to talk with us despite the time difference between Europe and here. And also, she is right now in a refugee camp. Anne O'Brien, IRIS Director of Community Engagement and Co-Sponsorship Services for Afghan Humanitarian Evacuees. Somaira Akbarzada. Somaira Akbarzada was born in Kabul, Afghanistan, and raised in California. She graduated from Yale last year with her Master in Public Health and currently working at Yale School of Public Health. Her passion lies in global health, health equity, and reproductive rights for women, including abortion rights. Or another wonderful speaker, Farishta Ganjavi. Farishta is a former Afghan refugee, community advocate, public speaker, founder and executive director of Elena's Light, a nonprofit based in Connecticut. Additionally, she works for the Refugee Council USA. Her passion lies in empowering refugee families through health education, personalized ESL tutoring, and cultural community exchange programs. Her ultimate goal is to advocate for education, insurance, and employment right for everyone, regardless of their immigration status. Donna Golden. Donna is a clinical psychologist and has served as a community volunteer and advocate for nearly half a decade. She is a co-founder of Century Kitchen and a member of the team. In 2020, she co-founded the Collective for Refugee and Immigrant Women's Wellbeing, along with me and Raquela Pereira, and has been a member of the Iris Culture Companion LA team for the past 2 years. And tonight, we are so grateful to have with us Nasima, our Century Kitchen new program director. Nasima grew up in Indiana and is the daughter of an Afghan immigrant, a New Haven resident for nearly 2 decades. Nasima has championed organizations that prioritize refugee rights and DEI work. Thank you, Nasima. You can take it from here.
Thank you, Hasna, and good evening, everyone. I'm so honored to be here this evening, both as a representative of Sanctuary Kitchen, but also a member of the Afghan diaspora. Like it is for so many, Sanctuary Kitchen has really become my refuge, and I'm thrilled to join the wonderful team of women that we have. Sanctuary Kitchen, it's a program of City Seed. We partner with immigrant and refugee chefs to build economic opportunity and authentic connections through food. So we're so grateful for your continued support and support of our chefs. We're so glad that you've joined us tonight. Your donations for tonight's event and a portion of the proceeds for tomorrow's Afghan dinner box will go to 2 local organizations, Iris and Elena's Light, both of whom you'll learn more about this evening, and as well as an Afghan nonprofit based in Kabul. So thank you to all who ordered Afghan dinner boxes. They sold out, which is amazing. And just a reminder, if you did order a dinner box, please remember to pick it up tomorrow between 4 and 6 at Sanctuary Kitchen. And I look forward to seeing you because I will be there while you pick them up. So although for most of us, Zoom etiquette is pretty much second nature at this point, let's review just a little bit of housekeeping before we get started. Please feel free to have your cameras on. It's going to be a conversation, so it'll be great to see your beautiful faces. But please, we ask that everybody stays muted as much as possible until the Q&A portion of the evening, which will be at the end. If you have questions or comments throughout, again, please just put them in the chat. We'll be monitoring it so we can field the questions during the Q&A session. So with that, let's start our conversation. We're going to start with a quick slideshow that was put together by Hasna and Donna. So I'm going to share my screen. So I hope that that kind of highlights the severity and the reality of so many Afghan women and just Afghans in general right now under the Taliban regime. So thank you to Donna and Hasna for putting that together for us. So to pivot a little, as mentioned before, we do have a wonderful lineup of speakers this evening. So we're actually going to begin with my incredible colleague, Hasna, who's going to tell us a little bit more about her experience.
Thank you, Nasima. It's hard to talk after. Sorry. On August 15, when I was following the news last year, some of the social media sites reported that Taliban entered Kabul from two sides. It was shocking and heartbreaking, not only for me, for every Afghan who believe in peaceful life, human rights, and a modernized society. After 2 to 3 hours, a reliable news agencies reported that fall of Kabul is true. This was the time I realized that the darkest experience of my childhood, attending an underground secret school, is repeating again under the brutal regime of the Taliban. Girls and women will be deprived for their basic human rights, education, employment, everything. I recall in the late 90s, under the Taliban, educated women and girls were not allowed to work in offices, rather to clean and cook in others' houses or find something in their homes to help and support their families. Knitting and this type of things. When, as a child, I attended school, it was hidden underground secret school. We were going to that school every single day, different time. Every single day, the time was changing because we didn't want to go the same time every single day. Because our teacher didn't want the Taliban to get suspicious of anything and realize that what is happening and what's going on in that house. So when I say school, probably most of you are thinking about classroom, 100 students. It was not like that. It was totally different. It was a dark basement of a private house, our teacher's house. We were going there. We were studying. There were girls, the ages between 6 to 18, all classes. And we were in one room, in one small room, like 15 to 20 people. When I'm thinking right now, I think we were fearless. And my teacher was the bravest person. Because we were basically committing a crime in the eyes of the Taliban, which was girls' education. And I now when I'm thinking about those moments, I think how ambitious we all were. We did not have the hope to use our education or even show what we learned to the world. We were keeping it hidden from everyone. It was not something to be proud of, but something to learn and keep hoping that one day the sun will rise and we will show and use the precious treasure we got. And this darkness will end, not knowing when. We didn't know that, when it will end. But you know that one day, for sure, it will end. After the fall of Taliban in 2001, in the past 20 years, Afghan women and girls, with a lot of struggles and hard work, they progress a lot. The number of girls, students from thousands, increased to more than 3.5 million. More than 3.5 million. We didn't think the progress Afghanistan had made couldn't be lost. Like, we didn't think it would be lost. Like, we think it couldn't be lost. We believed that this time the Taliban regime would have changed because the US, NATO were meeting with them in Doha, and probably they did a deal that they will respect human rights, women's education, and they will let girls safely do their education. That's true that the Taliban changed. Yes, they changed, but not to the better, to the worse. They changed for the worse. They are angry and resentful at having fought for more than 20 years. When they hear any complaint by the civilians, their response is, you had 20 years of foreigner involvement, whilst we fought and lived in mountains. Now they're angrier than before. Now girls above the age of 11 cannot go to school, and women are forbidden from working. Again, the same dark period is repeating. For the world, it's past that something happened. But for Afghan women, it is the present. It's happening. And it's happening every single day. Every day. They're suffering every single day. They're fighting for their rights by themselves, without any help from anyone. I'm very sad and disappointed when recalling the repeated promises of US, NATO, EU, UN, and others that we are with you. For Afghan women, we are with you. Yet Afghan women are still standing alone in this fight. They are alone. The aim of this event was not only to bring awareness, but also support Afghan women who have escaped Afghanistan and are struggling with PTSD and language barrier. we can support through volunteering, to help them with resources, guiding them through education and the workforce, and also help them with childcare needs. Any type of help is welcomed, and it's a big support word. Thank you everyone for your time.
Thank you, Hassan. That was truly moving, and thank you for being so candid with us and telling us what your experience was like. So next, we're going to have Sumaira from the Yale School of Public Health.
Thank you. Can you guys hear me? Just a thumbs up. Yes. Okay, perfect. Well, first, thank you so much to the wonderful organizers of this event for having us, and a very heartfelt shout out to the amazing women who presented before me and who will also present after me. I am truly honored to know all of you personally and to be in your presence. And again, thank you to the organizers for centering the voices of Afghan women and giving us a platform and a space to share our personal narratives and experiences. So thank you. If you can go ahead and share my slides now. Okay, thank you. So my name is Sumaira, and currently I am working at the Yale School of Public Health. I graduated from Yale last year, and my passion and my background is in global health, and that's what will be the focus of my presentation tonight, the public health crisis in Afghanistan and its impact on women. Next slide, please. Before the US withdrawal last year, women in Afghanistan were already facing great challenges in meeting their reproductive and sexual health needs. In the early 2000s, after decades of conflict, poverty, lack of health services, and births without doctors or midwives, Afghanistan had the second highest maternal and infant mortality rate in the world. Many women were not able to access healthcare and could only be examined by female health professionals, as male doctors were not allowed to visit them. And keep in mind, this was under the first Taliban regime. In late 2001, after the defeat of the Taliban, the Afghan government and international donors prioritized the development of an effective healthcare system, including expanding access to primary healthcare throughout the country. Next slide, please. So Afghanistan's health system had been steadily progressing over the last 20 years, with increasing coverage of health services throughout the country. In 2018, a total of 3,135 health facilities were functional, which ensured access to almost 87% of the population within 2 hours. And for the last 2 decades, life expectancy had risen, and maternal, newborn, and child deaths had dramatically decreased. Next slide, please. Now, looking at this figure from the World Bank, it is apparent that the overall infant mortality rate in Afghanistan was decreasing from 2010 to 2020 because of the presence of international aid organizations such as the World Bank, USAID, and health organizations such as the WHO, the Red Cross, and Doctors Without Borders. Next slide, please. So in 2018, there was a study conducted in Afghanistan with the purpose of finding out the biggest problems facing women in their local area when it came to accessing healthcare services. Respondents most frequently cited illiteracy and the lack of educational opportunities, followed by limits on women's rights that reduced their public participation and access to social justice. Other challenges mentioned were the lack of employment opportunities and domestic violence against women. And keep in mind, this was in 2018 before the Taliban. So now it's no secret that all of this has only worsened under the new Taliban regime since last August. Next slide, please. This figure illustrates infant mortality rates by country for this year, 2022. And the darker the red a country is, the higher the infant mortality rate. And if you can locate Afghanistan on the map, it's literally the heart of Asia. You can see how bright red the color is. So right now, Afghanistan is once again the country with one of the highest infant mortality rates in the world, which is very devastating after 20 years of progression that the country had made with the assistance and the aid of the international community. Next slide, please. And here I just did a very simple Google search on the current health status inside Afghanistan. And each of these headlines are from major scientific journals, such as the Lancet, international organizations such as United Nations, and large-scale news outlets such as NPR, which all basically say the same thing. Afghanistan's health crisis deepens under the Taliban. Afghanistan's health system on the brink of collapse as hunger hits 95% of families, and no pay for staff, no patient supplies, no heat. This is healthcare in Afghanistan. Next slide, please. So what's the status of healthcare for women in Afghanistan under the Taliban? Well, today, the UN estimates that 95% of the population is not getting enough to eat, with the number rising to 100% in households headed by women. And by September of last year, only 17% of Afghanistan's healthcare facilities, which were in part supported by the World Bank, were fully functional. Next slide, please. A Taliban mandate that was announced in December of 2021 said that women were not allowed to travel more than 45 minutes without a male escort. Human Rights Watch found that 10% of the population actually had to travel more than 2 hours to just reach a medical facility. And according to Amnesty International, another factor limiting access to healthcare for women, especially reproductive services, is forced child marriages. And these forced marriages are linked to early and closely spaced pregnancies, which can carry the risk of death for the mother and the child. And the number of child marriages has increased significantly under the Taliban. Next slide, please. So what can we do? Well, there has been legislation introduced by California Senator Dianne Feinstein. This bill requires the Department of State to periodically report to Congress on the conditions of women and girls in Afghan civil society following the departure of US and NATO forces. The reports will assess the status of assurance made by the Taliban relating to preserving the rights of women and girls in Afghanistan. So this is a great step, and hopefully other congressmen will follow this lead. And this can only be possible if we, the people, continue to place pressure on our elected representatives in Washington, D.C. There are also many organizations here in the US and Canada doing vital grassroots work and raising awareness for the women of Afghanistan. For example, one organization is Women for Afghan Women, and it is the largest non-government Afghan women's rights organization in the world, and it was founded in April of 2001. And the staff are mostly Afghan women, and they've adopted a very community-based approach. And finally, and most important, is to support Afghan women directly, such as Afghan female artists. So the wonderful sister Azita John, who will be going after me, will be talking about her artwork. And I hope everyone can support her work after tonight's event. These all might seem like very small efforts or steps, but they will definitely make a lasting impact. Next slide. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much, Sumaira. That was amazing. I think it's great that we are reminded of what is really at stake as far as health for women and girls. So Azita, you're next, if you are able to.
Hello.
Hello.
Can you hear me? Can you hear?
Yep,
Yes, we can hear you.
Sorry. Okay. First of all, I would like to thank everyone who is here today and everyone who gave me the opportunity to talk. I'm a girl from Eastern Afghanistan. It means Old Khorasan or today Afghanistan, a land that housed great civilizations such as Ahmeds, Kushans, Sassanids, Ghaznavids, Timuris, etc. And since ethics, immunity, poetry, and heart were at the center of their lives. I'm from the land that was ruled by Sultan Raziya Bani with the bravery of Ghori. Queen Gohar Shah Timuri was the chief minister of culture and heart of court, and thousands of other women whose names have become a source of glory, honor, and pride in our history. Unfortunately, when I wanted to enter to learn knowledge, my land became the plaything of black and evil thoughts and ideas. The black thought, the black government of Taliban came to power. They closed the gates of hope and efforts to women. I and my kind were not even allowed to learn to read and write. When all my effort and interest and with the support of my family, with all my efforts and interest and with the support of my family, I was able to study elementary lessons with my family and brave women who taught in their homes secretly. Like thousands of other girls, I also had goals and ideas, but unfortunately, the goals had become dreams that were impossible to achieve. A wish that should only be written inside a white sheet. Fortunately, when I was 11 years old, the Taliban government was overthrown and the gates of the school were open for women. I called this period Afghanistan Renaissance. I entered school with great interest. I didn't know what to learn at first. I was like a bird. I was like a bird that had just been released from a cage and doesn't know which flower of knowledge of sit on and which song to sing. Finally, I realized that art could help me do a service for the culture and history of my country. Along with school lessons, I started to learn painting and drawing, and also I started English languages. Since that's the way to introduce a better version of my country and convey my ideas to the outdoor world. All my efforts were how to make up for the lost time so that I could raise the name of Afghanistan in the world with my art and pen as soon as possible. After finishing school, I entered Herat University in field of art and graduated from the faculty with highest degree. I further pursued higher education and finished my master's degree and entered the doctorate. I wanted to introduce real Afghanistan to the people of the world through art, especially women's handicrafts. So I wrote and published many articles in this field. I was trying to show the beauty and strength of a real Afghan woman. I mostly focused on Afghan women who were deprived of their basic needs and human rights throughout their lives. I was trying to tell them who they are. They can, they are powerful, they should wake up. and free themselves from the grip of base ideas that have imprisoned them in their homes. I wanted to be able to show my mental ideas better by using the art I have. A girl whose every moment of her life is the story of a tragic movie. Fortunately, I was getting closer to my goals every day, and the circle of revolutionary women and women who were striving for their humanity and human rights was getting bigger. I built I built an art and culture research institute, participated in domestic and foreign art exhibitions, and defended women through art and culture. It's regrettable to say that Black history repeated itself again. The stains of despair sat on our faces. Thousands of girls were stopped from going to school, and beauty of women was covered under the veil. I had to sit at home like a statue watching how everything went back. Every day I shed tears for losing my effort. I tried to pull myself out of that black typhoon and had to leave Afghanistan, my hometown, because of repeated threats. For me, leaving Afghanistan is leaving everything I have ever worked for. I read Plato's philosophy until midnight, slept with Rumi's poetry, woke up with Hafiz, lived with Nietzsche, Kant, and Tolstoy. I fell in love with the stories of Romeo and Bakhtash, Romeo and Juliet. I analyzed Van Gogh's painting and Picasso's works. I, who handled the down painting the happiness of Afghan women on canvas, curtains to mark their true freshness and beauty. Today I'm waiting for what kind of scarecrow the world will make of me, so that I continue to lose and lose and lose. As a last word, I want to say that I brought all my goals with me, because of which I breathe and feel alive. And I'm sure there are lots of other powerful women who have similar goals as mine and are trying to start fresh. I'm looking for another chance for all of Afghan women to flourish once again. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Azita. That was so beautiful, and your words are beautiful, and so is your art, which I wanted to share a few pieces that Azita shared with us earlier. So I'm going to share my screen again just before we move on to the next speaker, because her artwork is so beautiful that everyone deserves to see it. So here we go.
Thank you for you, and thanks for giving me a time.
So thank you again. It was honestly, your artwork is so beautiful, and your words were beautiful too. And thank you for sharing that with us.
You're welcome. Thank you so much.
Next, we're going to hear from Anne O'Brien from IRIS.
Thank you, Nasima, and thank you to everyone at Sanctuary Kitchen, as well as Samara and Fareshta, and all the other speakers for making this happen. It was something that we knew we would like to do, and at the same time, we knew we still had work to be done that involved the 604 Afghan nationals that we have welcomed in the past 12 months. And that is 604 out of 904 newcomers that IRIS has welcomed in the past 12 months. And so just as it happened last fall, when we knew we couldn't do it alone, and we knew we needed our entire community, when Donna and Hasna reached out about doing this, we said, we will be there for you all, and you all can take the lead. It has been really an incredible year. And when I thought about doing this tonight, I knew I was going to get choked up because we did this a year ago. And I did the same thing a year ago. So bear with me, but it really has been an incredible year in so many different ways. IRIS has grown to try to help as many as we possibly can. For those that are not aware, we have members of the community on this call right now from around the state. I recognize some of their names. Jean Meyer from Stamford, Connecticut. Not too far from where we are, I recognize the name of Jean Silk from JCAR, which is a group that has also welcomed families. So the community that you see on your screen reaches far and wide across the state and beyond. And it is really fabulous. And it continues. To date, we are still welcoming families. We're now seeing families not just coming through the regular resettlement program, not just coming through the conference center that are still being evacuated out of, that were evacuated last August and are coming through the processing center in Doha. But we are now seeing families, Afghan families showing up in New Haven that have gotten themselves out of Afghanistan, have somehow gotten to Mexico and are crossing the border and making their way up here. So we will continue to welcome every single family that we possibly can. And we know that we have an amazing community, as you see on this screen, of people that are going to help us do that. We are honored to be the lightning rod, so to speak, to draw so many, and we know we can't do it all by ourselves. But we are trying to grow so that we can welcome more and more from Afghanistan, as well as from the other countries that have been kept out by those same ill-fated ideas that the Taliban is trying to institute. There are so many that were kept out for so many years from Syria, from the Sudan, and many other countries. So we are trying to grow. We're strengthening the offices up in Hartford and strengthening the co-sponsor network and other programs nationally to try to welcome even more. In the past couple of months, we have helped community groups in Texas, Pennsylvania, and Ohio to welcome more Afghan families. And we could not be more proud of that, because those are all towns where there was no refugee resettlement agency. And so we were able to work with a national program because there were families there and towns and schools that wanted to welcome Afghan families specifically. So we're really excited about doing that. I looked at our numbers to try to tell you a little bit about what the picture was. And of those 600 Afghans that we welcomed in the past 12 months, 60% were 18 and under. So that is a lot of young people that are representing the future. And although so many of those are females that would not have been allowed to be able to be educated right now in Afghanistan, and although they never wanted to leave their country, they will get an education here. They will become Hasna, and they will become Fareshta. And we will all sit back and do everything we possibly can to stay out of their way, right? To make sure that they get uplifted, to make sure that they're centered, whether it's through our family literacy program for those that did not have the chance to become educated in their homeland. We'll make sure that happens. And we're going to grow those programs, both in Hartford as well as in the other communities, wherever we have groups of volunteers that want to make that happen for the women and the families of Afghanistan that we have the honor of welcoming. So with that, if I can share just one picture, I don't know, Nasima, do I have access to be able to share?
You can in just a moment.
Okay. There's just one picture that I have to show you all because as much as all of our Afghan newcomers and those that are still coming have gone through, this is what I think all of us are all about. And that is this fabulous picture that my colleague, who I think is on here, Zini Malik, took out in Middletown. Can you all see that beautiful picture?
Sure can.
So I'd love for you all to meet Monib and his twin brothers, who were born on a military base, a welcoming center in New Jersey. And when we went to pick up Monib's family from the shuttle bus, we were told it was a family of 4. And as it turned out, it was a family of 6 because they had had twins and nobody had told us, but that's okay, because the community group that would welcome them was more than happy to have 2 more babies. So I show you that picture because honestly, as absolutely unbearable as all of this has been, that's what we need to focus on, right? Bringing more and more kids, more and more families, however they are able to make their way out of Afghanistan, so that at some point in the future, they can go back and be the future for all of those women that are in Afghanistan now. Thank you for letting me have a little bit of time.
Thank you, Anne. And yes, that picture is just wonderful, warms my heart, it's beautiful. So next we're going to hear from Faresha. So from Elena's Light, if you'd like to take the floor, go for it.
Salam, hi everyone. Thank you so much for organizing, making this. I feel like this atmosphere is taking me back to the last year, what's happening. A year of full of, I don't know how to explain, I'm speechless after I heard what Hosna John shared. It's really, really same feeling, same thing happening. I had a friend, she texted me and said, how are you? Maybe that question is normal in a normal time, but I was very upset to answer this question at that time. I was asking myself, how she not knows my feeling? A Taliban we are trying to escape, we are trying to build our life from zero again, took over the country. And right now, how should I be my feeling? How should I explain? It was saddest moment in my life, entire life. And I'm sure it's not me, everyone. It was so hard to see what you built, what your community built, and all go by one night. It is really, really hard when you are on the phone. I didn't see my uncle for over 25 years. I saw him when I was a child in different countries. We were immigrants. And then he was with me on the phone, and I talked with him, and I begging him, leave the station, because he was working part of a military. And I told him, please go. Taliban gonna come, they will kill you. And what he told me at the return, it's been 20 years, I took all of the body of my soldiers to their poor mothers. If I escape right now, I cannot look at those mothers' eyes again in my life. I will stay here with all of my soldiers. We are going to fight with Taliban. We are not gonna give our city, our village to them. After I hang out the phone with him, after 2 hours, based on what he told me, leave your station, Taliban gonna come to the city. You cannot stay, you cannot fight. I just wanna make this clear. If there was opportunity, our soldier, our people, they had all the equipment, they had all the knowledge. Moreover, they all had passionate and love to keep their country secure. But what they didn't have, permission from the unknown government that we had at that time. They didn't have permission to fight. They just asked to leave to save other people. As Hosna John mentioned, and all you may know, the deal already happened in Doha. Country already sold very cheap to a terrorist group. But what we can do right now to not making people really overwhelmed. Some people are saying we send thousands of billion of money to Afghanistan. But what we have in return, it's better to say now we have a group of people full of energy, time, love, and passionate here in United States. 76,000 people evacuated, and right now in all United States. All they need is love from us, getting together and show them the road they can do whatever they had dreamed to do. We have a lot of women, like wonderful women in Connecticut. They came long time ago, like myself and Hosna John, and we have a new group. They came here in Connecticut. The new group, I can say, are much different than the group the time I came. One difference is they never tested to be refugee before. That's the first time they became a refugee in one night. They had to get plane and go to an unknown country that they don't know, and now they have to call it a home. They're all happy, they love it, but some of them are lost. They want to know if they are artists, if they have a specific skill, how they can show this ability, this knowledge that they have. I'm in communicating with one new artist, and she's awesome, wonderful. She's looking for a way to show herself, and we are trying to do that the way right now you see. I want to tell you, I created a 3 statement to ask all of us to do it. I don't know if you all heard about Afghan Adjustment Act. These 76,000 people here in the US, unfortunately, they are temporary here. After the end of temporary time, which is 18 months, they have to leave the country. Or they have to start to apply for asylum, which is another long process. With this Afghan Adjustment Act, they will get the better estate. They can stay in the United States and have all of the, at least a peaceful mind to, now I have a work authorization, I can build my life, my kids can go to school, like have a normal life. Right now, there is like not a stress of leaving everything behind, what's happening in Afghanistan, who's gonna be controlling. The big deal here is what will happen after 18 months? What will happen if our case get denied? These are I want, if there is any way anyone can react on it to find a way to promote, to talk about this. That law is right now in Senate. Hopefully one day became a law and like Afghans can stay peacefully. The second part, sorry, I have poor memory. The second thing I want to say, don't think who is in the government right now in Afghanistan. Think about the humans there, about the women that we talk. The basic rights is having food and shelter. Right now, most of the women in Afghanistan and families are struggling. Why? Because all of the NGO, all of the non-profit organization used to work in Afghanistan, they all came out now. There is more hunger, more people need help. If there is any way people can help to Afghanistan, always there is organization who are collecting donation and sending to Afghanistan. If you were, or if you know anyone who had organization, please don't care who is in the government. just care about the humans and the people who are in, like, you know, in really need and suffering. Okay, one other thing about okay, one thing I remember, okay, I said newcomers need more services and more things. Like, for example, what I'm doing at Elena's Light, we are interviewing, talking with several volunteers to do ESL classes one-on-one for the women who are here more than 2 years, or some of them are even newer and they need one-on-one services. Also, we have a health classes for the women, which the women, they want to know about their healthy lifestyle, but they don't have a chance to go to school and start from zero. Now they get a right proper education from doctors from Yale New Haven Hospital. If you can and you are able, sign up for volunteering and helping these women, these families, in several other organizations that we have active in Connecticut. We are very, very fortunate and happy to have Iris. I started my life from Iris. I was one of the clients. I had honor and opportunity to be one of the health coordinator for 3 years. And now I'm still a fellow and, you know, a supporter of Iris, because many of newcomers, many of people start their life like myself from Iris. And the reason I create Elena's Light, to give more support to my Afghan communities and to give the love that I have in my heart. As Hosna and others said, it's something in your heart you cannot get away. You have to do something to feel more comfortable. I feel it's not enough for myself. Let's do it more. That's why I try to do it more. And now I'm happy to have, since these 5 years that we are working at Elena's Light, serving more than 700 individuals and families through education, health, and donation. Thank you so much for giving us a time and letting me talk this long. I know you told me 5 minutes, but it was so excited. It's my honor to see you all. Thank you so much, every one of you, for supporting and helping this greater Connecticut community. As Mrs. Ann O'Brien said, some of the names are familiar. I'm so excited to see you. Thank you for standing up and supporting all the time. Thanks, Donna and Hosna John, for this making this event.
Thank you so much. So I just wanted to once again thank everyone for being here. I know we're a little over time, so I understand if anybody needs to jump off or anything like that, but I did want to give everyone the opportunity, if you do have some questions, to please put them in the chat. I do see that there is one that we can kind of field to all of our speakers for the evening. Are there any new sources of support, so financial support, for the Afghans that we are helping who are on humanitarian parole? If anybody knows of any organizations or support we can give, feel free to jump in or put it in the chat, whatever's easier for everyone. Anyone know? And the other thing that I wanted to add, and I'm so sorry to go back, but we ran out of time a little bit for Donna Golden to talk, but she did want to mention her website, so I'm going to let her take the floor and just mention that too.
Hi, everyone. I purposefully went last in this panel because I thought we might end up going over. So I just wanted to direct you to our website, which is crew.support, and maybe Nasima could put that in, and you'll learn about our program. And I'm honored to be with you all today, and thank you for coming and supporting this.
Thank you, Donna. Sorry we ran out of time for your portion of it, but I just put the website in the chat, so hopefully everybody can take a look there and see what other kinds of help we can give. Here's a great question, again, for any of our speakers. With women suffering so much PTSD, how likely is it for women to seek counseling? And what can human service professionals do to help attract and better serve Afghan female clients?
If I can just quickly chip in,
Yep.
when it comes to mental health or just even mental health services in Afghanistan, it's very much looked down upon. Nobody talks about depression, anxiety, PTSD in Afghanistan because unfortunately the society is very conservative. And because they're not as educated, they see mental illness not actually as a medical issue, but rather as a sign of a very weak faith. So if somebody is suffering from depression, it's because they are not good Muslims. They don't have a strong enough faith in God. So that's why, unfortunately, to answer your question, no, there's not much mental health services in Afghanistan. There wasn't a great number during the last 20 years, but now with the Taliban taking over, it's almost zero to non-existent, unfortunately.
Are there things that we can do from here to help with that?
I think there is right now, just with everything that's happening, there are organizations that are abroad that are run by Afghan female in the diaspora, or just any organization that supports education, mental health, where they're trying to offer, I guess, services online. So there is online schools where the students are in Afghanistan, but it's taught by teachers outside of Afghanistan. And I believe right now there is something for mental health that's in the works. So hopefully we can be able to provide therapy online to these women. Hopefully that is something that is going to be accomplished, but just also keep in mind Afghanistan is a very poor country. Most women, especially in rural areas, might not have access to the internet. So if these services do come into existence, it's mainly going to be women in more urban areas like Kabul. But yeah, it's something that is in the works.
I know like some doctors here in Washington, Virginia, they are Afghan doctors. They used to work in Afghanistan. Right now they are here in the US, but they still do visit online with their teacher, with their patients there. There is something like, as Samira just said, ongoing, but not very officially yet. But people, if they want to do something, they will find a way to do it. If you ask about here in United States, there is a lot of services, but it's like it's like a taboo for the woman to show up and to go and get these services. But I'm happy there is like more Afghan woman consult or with the clinical master of social worker around to send support. If you need, we have some name we can share with you.
I just want to add one thing to it. Even for with the online helping online support, it's better than nothing, but that is another privilege for those who has access to the internet and electricity in Afghanistan, because we have people, they don't have internet, they don't have access to electricity. So this is another thing that is a privilege for those who has those facility. And sadly, right now it's the worst time.
So it looks like there's a little dialogue in the chat as well. There was a question about if there have been any updates about the $7 billion of Afghanistan's central bank that the US froze. And it says money is still likely frozen with sanctions in place. And that is the last update that I heard as well, because I've been trying to pay attention to that. Yes, it would alleviate so much of the suffering. I think it's a whole other can of worms, but yes, I think that as far as I know, everything is still frozen. Does anyone have any other questions? I want to be respectful of everyone's time, and I know we're already past time. So if there are no more questions, or I think the contact info for all of our speakers has been put in the chat, so feel free to reach out one-on-one if that's the case. And you can reach most of us via Sanctuary Kitchen, and we can always get you in touch with our speakers if you were unable to take down any information. I just, again, want to thank all of you for signing on tonight. This is such a valuable conversation and such a necessary conversation that we need to have to support our women in Afghanistan and here, and to see what we can do as Americans, really. And I also just wanted to open it up to Hasna to see if she wanted to say any closing remarks as well, because again, she organized all of this, and she did an amazing job of getting everybody together. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much for all of you. Like this Thursday, you spent this wonderful time with us, and this evening you could spend anywhere, and I know it was emotional, and sorry, in my talk I couldn't stop myself. I tried my best, and I warned Donna at the beginning. I said, Donna, I cried when I was preparing, but I don't know if I will cry during the speech, so sorry about that. But this is the reality of Afghan women and Afghan people, unfortunately. That's what they're going through. What you talk about and what you feel, what you live under that regime, it's totally different experience. So thank you so much all for your precious time and your support. Really appreciate it. Thank you. And thank you, Nasima, for supporting and being such a supportive person. Thank you so much. And Sanctuary Kitchen, Dana, Courtney, everyone, thank you. Thank you so much for all of your time and support. Have a great evening.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Okay, so the recording is stopped.